St. Patrick's Day is fast approaching, and our family loves corned beef and everything that goes along with it. And that includes cabbage, which is pretty surprising because we got two young kids. Now, if you'll notice, I've got two different cuts of corned beef here. This is a point cut. It's got a little more fat in it. It's a little bit cheaper. And then this is the butcher's cut. The butcher's cut has most of the fat trimmed off of it. You can see it's got a seasoning packet. Now this is good for leftovers for the next day because if you're gonna make sandwiches, it's easier to slice thin slices of sandwich meat and not have to fight with the fat. But the point cut is also very good. We'll pick through it like we would bacon and just pick the ones that have a little less fat in it. Now, the best part about this recipe is, unlike other recipes where the meat is watered down because you covered it entirely with fluid, or the recipes where the meat is a little too salty for younger taste buds or too spicy, this recipe works out great. When you're eating the cabbage, you don't bite into peppercorns and cringe. You're pretty good to go. So I hope you stay tuned, and then I hope this video helps you out. Before we cook the other vegetables like the potatoes and the carrots and the cabbage, we need to cook the meat. So I've got the corned beef in the crock pot here, and I've dumped in all the juice that was in the packet that the corned beef was in, as well as the seasoning packet. Now that fluid helps season the meat, and it provides a lot of the flavor that's going to be used to season the vegetables and stuff later on. So that's really important to get the seasoning packet in there and all the juices. Now you're going to need more fluid to cook it as well. And the two choices of fluid are beer or water. My wife prefers the water, so that's what we're going to use today. And conveniently with this crock pot, it takes between 12 and 16 ounces to get the fluid where we need it, which is a little more than halfway up the side of the meat. Now this allows the meat to cook thoroughly, yet doesn't wash all the flavor out. Now while we're cooking it, we're going to flip it over a few times, probably like 3-4 times, and we're just going to follow the instructions on the package for the corned beef, which said 8 to 10 hours in the crock pot on low. Now it could take a little less time, it could take a little more. At the end of the day, the digital thermometer is king. If the meat temps out at 165, it's safe to eat. So we're going to go ahead and put the lid on the crock pot and start it up. All right, so our corned beef has been cooking for about 8 hours now. I just temped it out. The meat's well above 165 degrees. Now, while it was cooking, I took advantage of that time and I cut up some baby carrots. There's about a cup and a half here cut into like matchstick shapes. This should work out pretty good. As you can see, I also cut up half a head of cabbage. I didn't use the center core part. I tried to avoid that piece. As you can see, it's not the largest cabbage, it's just a small one, and I used about half of it. And we have some potatoes as well. Now I've sliced up 4 about normal sized potatoes here, thinly sliced so they cook about the same rate as the cabbage and the carrots, which is why they're sliced thin as well. So here's how we take care of the peppercorns and other seasoning. We dump the juice out of the crock pot through a colander into the measuring cup there, but we leave some of the juice with the meat, about a 1/4 cup, and we go ahead and put the lid back on it and turn it off. This is going to keep it warm and moist while we're cooking the rest of the vegetables. So now we're going to take our juice and we're going to add it to the cabbage, and we're going to reserve, maybe about a cup or something for the potatoes. We want to fill the cabbage up till it's about 80%, somewhere in there, because it's going to steam down a lot. That cabbage is going to be a lot less volumetric when we're all done here. Now I like to mix the carrots with the cabbage when I cook it, so we're going to go ahead and dump them in as well. And we'll get those cooking along with the potatoes. We also have the potatoes here. Now I've sliced up 4 potatoes fairly thin. That way they cook at the same rate as the cabbage and carrots. And we're going to cook them on medium high in just plain water. And then we're going to drain that water out when they're fork tender. And we're going to use this liquid from the corned beef to help season the potatoes along with a little bit of butter and maybe salt and pepper to taste. You always have to hold out because you don't know how much salt is in that fluid until you tasted it mixed with the potatoes. I went ahead and I cooked the cabbage and carrots. I covered it up and cooked it on medium high for about 20-25 minutes. As you can see, great. I also cooked the potatoes at the same time, and they're fork tender now. They crumble if you fork them, and then I strained the water off so they're ready to mash. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our juice, and you got to be careful because if you add too much, it's going to be really watery. Right here, we've got right on a cup, and I think that's going to be perfect for the potatoes we have. Your potatoes may be smaller or bigger, I don't know. Just have to go by feel and see if they're too runny or not. We're also going to add a couple pats of butter for our potatoes, and we're going to mash them up. You might have to salt and pepper to taste. Just finishing up mashing the potatoes. They turned out fantastic. They taste really good. Didn't have to add any salt or pepper. And our cabbage and carrots, same thing. Tastes great. So we're ready to serve it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm glad you had the patience to watch it all the way through. I'm still learning a lot. Now, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the like and the subscribe button, that would help me out so much. I hope you enjoy the meal, and happy St. Patrick's Day.